What's going on, guys? This is Sean, Lineup Logic. Second try at StackCast here. I apologize for the first one. Audio was not recording while I talked for 15 minutes to myself. That's a bummer, but I think I got it now. I just did a test, so it should be working just fine. So what we want to figure out today is exactly how we're going to build our stack against Chris Smith. He's starting for the A's. I wanted to go through exactly, who I would target in this situation. You have a relatively kind of unknown pitcher, a guy who, has only made a few starts recently. There's a limited sample size of data, so we want to figure out if the Orioles are going to be in a plus matchup here and who we should play if we're going to play Orioles. They're getting a decent run total of 4.8. So we want to figure out what we're going to do against Chris Smith. So the first thing that I'm going to do is find him on Fangraphs here, track down his splits versus lefties and righties. We see, nothing outstanding here. 315, 328 WOBA to righties and lefties. That's not unbelievable. The slugging percentage against righties is definitely higher. 15 earned runs over 30 innings pitched. That's not amazing. So we definitely can see that he is a targetable guy. Add to that, we'll look at the xFIP against lefties, really bad because the walk rate is super elevated, not a very good K rate. So lefties and righties seem to be in play, although the xFIP to righties is pretty low. We see the batted ball data here, decent hard contact to righties, and home runs are definitely coming from righties. So we're going to try to figure out exactly who it is on the Orioles that we might stack here. Even with limited data against Chris Smith, we can try to figure it out. Now, as the sample size gets much larger, if we were to do this, say, for the Mets against Vinny Velasquez today, we would have a much larger sample set of data with Velasquez's 2017 year to work with. With Chris Smith, we don't have a ton. So we know righties and lefties are in play. There certainly is we certainly like the righties maybe a little bit more for home run upside. So we're going to look at Chris Smith's pitch splits. We go to splits here. We can go to pitch type splits on Fangraphs, and we can use pitch FX or we can use pitch info. They're pretty much the same. They categorize a lot of the same things. They just classify their pitches and track them differently. So we'll look at pitch info here. We see in 2017 that all the home runs for him have come against the four-seamer for the most part. All the home runs have come against the four-seamer. So that's definitely where we want to go if we want power upside against him. We see that the velocity of this pitch is only 88 miles an hour, anywhere averaging around 85. So we have a soft tossing righty here. So that's something to keep in mind. It looks like that hitch has always been his problem. In 2010, he was in the minors before AAA, there's this huge stretch where he was in AAA here. Last year it was pretty good over a pretty small sample size, but this year it's been really pretty bad. The four-seamer he's really struggled with it. You can see a massive OPS and ISO number there. Now, those numbers aren't adjusted properly because the reality is the small sample size, those will adjust to a relatively normal scale. But if we're trying to find a pitch that we can attack here, it's clearly his four-seamer. And his changeup looks like it also has had some struggles. That's his BABIP, not his ISO. So we're definitely looking at the four-seamer, possibly a changeup here. That is another possible. We know he's going to throw a curveball. So we're looking for guys who are capable of hitting these three pitches, specifically guys who perhaps demonstrate some power against the four-seamer. 36% fly ball rate is not that high. We certainly have guys on the slate who are a little bit higher, but I do like the fact that it's not necessarily a valuable pitch for him, and he's allowing people to hit it. Look at this, 93% contact rate on the four-seamer. That's rough, right? That's really rough. That means he's pitching the contact here, and people are not chasing anything from him. So maybe the breaking stuff, but the four-seamer certainly seems to be the issue. So let's go figure out who on the Orioles can hit righties and can hit the four-seamer. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to look at the Orioles. I'm going to figure out, boom, Orioles right there versus righties. I click on active roster, 50 plate appearances, and I'm going to look at the advanced data against righties first to see WRC+, and I see Trey Mancini and John Scope. So immediately these two guys are in play. They have been two of the most productive guys against righties on this lineup. I love it. I like these guys. They were already on my radar. Tim Beckham, interestingly enough, as an Oriole, has been pretty productive against righties as well. Interestingly enough, you see names that you might be more interested in not doing that well. Manny Machado, Chris Davis, kind of average at best. Adam Jones, 100 being average here. Very average. So you don't really have a lot of above average performers in this sense. But we got to kind of double check that because we know that these guys are pretty good hitters, and we see something like a 254 ISO, 199 ISO from Manny. Those that indicate that there might be something here that we should really like. Flip over to the batted ball data just to see who's got the most hard contact. And sure enough, Chris Davis, Trey Mancini, Tim Beckham with a 43% hard contact rate against righties. Not a lot of fly balls for him, a lot of ground balls. Chris Davis clearly elevating the ball. That's good stuff. So Wellington Castillo also seems to be profiling well, but of course John Scope is up here again. Adam Jones, not that impressive. Manny Machado, 36% hard contact rate with a 43% fly ball rate. So, and you can see, I mean, if we look at Machado's numbers, he's got a 263 BABIP compared to Mancini's 363 BABIP. I mean, that is, and Beckham's 386 BABIP. This is just unlucky. This man is just getting unlucky. He is crushing baseballs clearly at 36% hard contact, but he is very unlucky with a 263 BABIP. So we have to make sure that we remain neutral on Machado and give him some credit. So right now in play, Davis, Mancini, Scope, Machado. We kind of knew that, right? Obviously, that wasn't too hard to figure out. Those guys are possibly in play here. Possibly Castillo, possibly Tim Beckham. Tim Beckham's ground ball rate. And Mancini's ground ball rate. So we're going to look at all these guys and see who can actually hit these pitches. We're looking at the fastball, right? We want to figure out who's creating value against the fastball. It's clearly Trey Mancini. So Trey Mancini jumps off the page right there as the best fastball hitter. Beckham right behind him. So those two are certainly in play. We also know we have a curveball and a changeup on this team. So I'm going to go ahead and sort by the curveball, figure out if there's any good curveball hitters on this team. Seth Smith. Well, there's John Scope, right? Seth Smith probably won't be at the top of the lineup. He hasn't been for a while. John Scope, right there. We knew we liked him. He's showing profiling really well against the curveball and the change. Pretty solid against the fastball as well. So that's really good news. I like to see that in there. Manny Machado, not profiling that well right here. We do see Chris Davis, if we were to sort by the changeup. Chris Davis certainly seems to be doing pretty well against the changeup, so maybe he's a little bit more in play. But right now, it's actually, interestingly enough, seemingly some of the more discounted guys, Scope, Mancini, Beckham, possibly as plays, and maybe a Chris Davis in there. But we're really falling off of guys like Mark Trumbo. He's not profiling very well. He hasn't popped in this situation. But we do want to see, okay, let's go over to Baseball Savant and figure out if these guys actually really are going to be able to hit home runs, because that's what we want. So we go straight to Trey Mancini here. I'm going to search for Trey Mancini. I'm going to flip over his 2017 splits because that's what I've been looking at this whole time. And I look at Trey Mancini's splits, and what I'm looking for, again, is that we know he's hitting righties. It's clearly the fastball that he's capable of hitting, 376 average, slugging 731. That's pretty solid. So if I were to play Mancini in this situation, that's really pretty good. I like that. I like that a lot, that he hits that four-seamer well, right? And then I'm going to also look at John Scope, just kind of to make sure that I know what I think I know, right? I'm going to flip over to 2017 because that's the data we've been using. John Scope against, there it is, the four-seamer. 5 homers this year, slugging 489. Not quite the same, but look at that number against the changeup, slugging 692. That's pretty sweet. Not quite batting 300 there. That's not my favorite thing, but the curveball, high batting average against the curveball, I like that, especially the high numbers there. So Scope, clearly a balanced hitter, right, against these 3 pitches. We see his highest home run totals, curve, change, fat, four-seamer. These are his pitches. This is where he's creating value, and definitely some extra base hits against those pitches, as well as plenty of singles against the, that's the two-seamer, pardon me, extra base hits, against the changeup here, or base hits against the changeup. Oh, man. I'm looking at this two-seamer data. He profiles really well against the two-seamer. That's what that FT stands for. It's a two-seamer. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, I mean, Scope's certainly in play. Certainly seems like that's a decent pitch that he can take advantage of. Let's look at a couple of the other names that we were considering. Chris Davis, for example. And earlier, this wasn't really working. Chris Davis data was, for whatever reason, lagging. 2016, we see good numbers against the four-seamer. Let me flip over to 2017, however. And just flip back to... Oh, there it is, 2017. Okay, we got 2017 data. Great. Okay, so yeah, again, the four-seamer. The numbers are down this year. You know, the two-seamer seems to be a pitch that he's hitting well. He's slugging against the changeup, but only batting .242 with a total of eight total hits. 8 total hits. That's not exactly a huge number. So, and he doesn't seem to be hitting the curveball very well, only batting 121 against the curveball. So it really doesn't seem like Chris Davis is a must-have in this situation. Kind of aligns with what we know this year. He just has not been able to, you know, be super effective. So, Scope and Mancini, maybe I cross Chris Davis off my list. That's fine. It saves me his first baseman spot somewhere else. Let's check on Manny. Let's see how Manny Machado's numbers look here in this situation. We know, you know, he's having a rough year, being unlucky, but let's see how he's batting against these pitches. Wow, 17. Oh, that was last year. Sorry. Whoops. Beep. I was going to say, I didn't know he had that many home runs. Okay, 2017 against the four-seamer, 8 homers. You know, not batting very well. We know that aligns with the BABIP, 225, slugging 424. Not my favorite number to see. Hitting the curveball at a pretty decent clip here. But again, all these batting averages for Machado, pretty low. Clearly not hitting all that well this year. So, you know, do I like Machado for the hard hit rate and the fly balls? Yes. Do I know that he's getting unlucky? Yes, but I don't know that he's a must-have in this stack, so it certainly just seems to be Mancini and Scope in this situation. But we'll check on Tim Beckham, too. He's a nice value piece. He could be in the middle of that order. He's been batting 6th at times in this lineup, so let's see how he's doing in 2017, if his batting average is a little bit better against these pitches. And we see he's hitting the four-seamer extremely well. So maybe Tim Beckham's the last guy that I throw in here. You know, not hitting the change extremely well. Certainly not hitting the curveball well. But the four-seamer, you know, for a value second baseman, I think Tim Beckham is not the worst option. But for right now, it really looks like kind of a mini stack, a pairing of Mancini and Scope. That's okay. Maybe a check on Adam Jones because I know he is the leadoff bat. Let's see what Adam Jones looks like in 2017. Much more of a contact hitter than some of those power guys. Like, oh, come on. I know you're going to work. Adam Jones. No, nothing. Come on, Baseball Savant. What did you do? Let's look up Adam Jones. Sorry, guys. One thing I do see on Jones is that I don't really like, not a ton of heat on that, not a lot of exit velocity. Okay, so the Adam Jones data, for whatever reason, not really working for me. So, you know, it's Mancini and Scope for me right now. Maybe Adam Jones in a leadoff position. He can hit the four-seamer. One more fund that I want to recommend to you guys, addmorefunds.com. It aggregates all this stuff. You just sign up for a membership. It is a free membership, but I do recommend that website as well. It profiles, it gathers a bunch of the data on batters from baseballsavant.com. So that's what we do. We look at his splits, look at which pitches we want to attack, figure out who on the Orioles can hit that right-hander. Then we look at who can hit those pitches. And for right now, it's kind of looking like a mini stack of Scope and Mancini if we really want the power. Possibly Chris Davis, Manny Machado, Tim Beckham maybe as a value option at shortstop. So mini stack maybe is an option here. But definitely thinking about the Orioles and you know, testing my theories here by doing a little StackCast. Guys, I'm happy to make more of these videos. Tweet at me, ask me if you want to see me break down a team or a stack. This is how I usually do it as the research goes on. All right.